Yo, what's good, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about the interesting African showdown that was Martin Bakole versus Efe Ajagba. I'm going to open up with my scorecard as I actually had Efe Ajagba winning the fight 6-4. But you know how these things go. When there's a clear favorite like this, there's going to be some fishy shit going on. And fishy shit is what I believe we got. But I don't know if I'm ready to call it a robbery because there were a couple of competitive rounds that could have swung either way. So I guess not a terrible score. But going back into the actual fight, that was unexpected. I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was going to be a routine knockout victory for Bakole. Prior to this fight, Ajagba never really showed his ability to box on the outside like that. So I was expecting a little bit more of a back and forth affair between these two men where they stand toe to toe in the middle of the ring and bang it out, with Bakole eventually being the victor. But that's not what we got. Evidently, Efe Ajagba tapped in his inner Devin Haney and at times gave Bakole a boxing lesson and visibly and audibly frustrated him, where he was on his bike and scored points with his jab and threw a handful of right hands which landed flush and certainly got Bakole and the fans' attention. And there were also a couple of rounds where these two colossal African men opt to have a fencing battle with their jabs. But the rounds that Bakole won were definitely a lot more dominant. There were rounds where he closed the gap on Efe and had him hurt and pinned on the ropes, and he just threw a barrage of varied punches. Those were rounds where he landed numerous eye-catching shots with his right hand. Just overall very dominant, very decisive rounds for Bakole, right? Those were the rounds that Bakole won. And staying on the topic of Bakole, this man is a very crafty fighter. He is very good at disguising the true range of his right hand. I'm not quite sure how he does it, but it just feels like he can extend it further than he should be able to. Maybe because his natural stance is so bladed that when he squares up, the reach of his right arm drastically increases. But it is puzzling, if I'm being honest. He caught Ajagba by surprise with it many times over, as well as his previous opponents. He's also fairly economical with it early in fights, so his opponents really can't gauge its true range. But Bakole certainly has one hell of a right hand. This man has naturally heavy hands, which makes him dangerous all fight long, because he doesn't need to load up to hurt his opponents. So even when he's tiring, his opponents still cannot afford to get hit by this man because every shot sustained from this man is damaging and concussive. Now, in terms of cons that were further exposed from this fight, I would say it's his stamina. I suspect that Bakole doesn't stay disciplined outside the ring, which I guess really isn't anything groundbreaking given the shape of him. But I say that to say that he has stamina issues, I think, and he fights in bursts for a reason. If you take a look at round 5, right, he took that round off. He just completely dominated Ajagba in round 4. He had him hurt several times, but he just gave away the next few rounds after that. He willingly stopped his advance in the 5th round and kind of just rested. It was honestly kind of absurd considering the fact that he wasn't doing much of anything in the first 4 rounds to begin with, because Ajagba wasn't in range for him to attack anyway. So why was he tired after that 4th round? So yeah, that's definitely a factor that is going to be added on in the blueprint. Beat him. Now I do want to talk about Ajagba real quick. This man is a multi-dimensional fighter. Just in his last fight, he unveiled his southpaw stance, and here now he just showed us his ability to be nimble and box from the outside. I also like the work of his corner. I thought they were saying all the right things, and for the most part, Ajagba, he fought a disciplined fight, listened to his corner, complied and executed the game plan as best as he could. They got a solid thing going on over there. However, if I were to offer constructive criticism, it would be to learn how to fight inside, and he needs to add clinching in his arsenal. And as odd as this may sound, he also needs to remember that he does have legs. There were several moments where he was by the ropes, and I guess he kind of just felt trapped by Bakole, but he really wasn't. he kind of just shelled up and let Bakole go to work. Now, in times like those, he needs to remember that he has legs and he is able to move, so he should get a move on, which I know is much easier said than done, but they're professional fighters after all, right? They got to know these things. But to end on a positive note, I do think both Efe and Bakole have really, really good jabs, especially Bakole. I love his jab. This man's jab is the definition of a broomstick jab. It seems like this man can poke his opponent with his jab from the other side of the ring. It's insane. Also, I love the way they show love to each other after the fight. They both seem like lovely fellas. But what did you think of the fight? Do you think the judges had it right? Who do you guys want to see these two fight next? Me personally, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. I did enjoy the fight after all. Yeah, that's all for me. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you have a lovely